A Labour activist, given an MBE for Services to Integration and Cohesion, demanded that Muslims in Rotherham who refused to boycott the police following the town's grooming gang scandal should themselves be, quote, boycotted by the Muslim community. New footage of Muhbeen Hussain, obtained by GBNews, shows him making a fiery speech launching the boycott to a cheering crowd made up almost entirely of men. He said, "Any Muslim organisation, let's make it better, any Muslim individual or institution in Rotherham that do not adhere to this policy of disengagement will also be boycotted by the Muslim community." Hussain also accused the police of failing to protect Rotherham's Muslims from far-right demonstrations and violence that he said had zapped poison into the town. The police boycott was ordered months after 81-year-old Mushin Ahmed was racially abused and murdered in the town after falsely being called a groomer. Representatives of Hussain said the boycott was in response to Ahmed's death, and Hussain had been unable to mention this to the BBC for legal reasons. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick said, "Muhbeen Hussain has been caught red-handed calling for a Muslim boycott of the police in Rotherham. He should be stripped of his MBE and removed from his position on the APPG for British Muslims. His pernicious rant set back community cohesion. His award is a sick joke on the British public." Hussein's representative said Jenrick's comments were inflammatory and pointed out that the boycott had occurred 10 years earlier in response to Ahmed's death, and his criticism ignored his long record of community work. It emerged last week that Hussain was to receive the MBE in the latest honours list, even though he called on Muslims to break with the force and, quote, take all the necessary action to protect ourselves, in October 2015. The footage we reveal today shows he went further than previously reported, saying individual Muslims, as well as institutions, must be shunned if they cooperated with police.
If anybody from the Muslim community does not bring in this policy, we boycott them too. Any Muslim organisation, let's make it better, any Muslim individual or institution in Rotherham that do not adhere to this policy of disengagement will also be boycotted by the Muslim community. We call upon that.
Hussein's speech was delivered within a year of then Home Secretary Theresa May finding that institutionalised political correctness had affected investigations into grooming gangs in Rotherham. May's statement came after the 2014 Alexis J report into Rotherham, which found there was a widespread perception that messages conveyed by some senior people in the council and also the police were to downplay the ethnic dimensions of child sexual exploitation. Hussain said on X yesterday that the boycotts had never targeted individuals and was purely in terms of dialogue, communication and engagement with South Yorkshire Police, noting it did not prevent crimes from being reported. Hussein's MBE for Political Services to Integration, Cohesion and to British Society was announced last month.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
GBNews' Charlie Peters joined Ben Leo and Nana Akua on Britain's Newsroom to discuss the story.
What can you tell us?
Well, when Muhbeen Hussain called for this boycott in 2015, Rotherham was a tense and very much a disgruntled town, split in many ways, rocked by that grooming scandal which had emerged in the previous year through that official report by Alexis J, and also a perceived surge in hate crimes following demonstrations against the gangs, but also the more broad Muslim community. Well, Muhbeen Hussain called for that boycott soon after also the murder of an 81-year-old man because, but at the time, he told the BBC that the cause for the boycott, first and foremost, he said, was that the police had pushed a pernicious lie that it had not acted on grooming allegations because of fears of being called racist. Now, Hussain's group, British Muslim Youth, also said that this was used to scapegoat Muslims by the police to cover for their failures, in effect. Now, South Yorkshire Police has not blamed a fear of being racist for the failure to properly investigate grooming gangs in Rotherham. The independent reports that we've seen over the years have cited many unacceptable reasons for the failure, and the force has accepted those allegations, but it's never said that racism was part of that reason. So in a statement released last week under the heading "Enough of the Lies," Muhbeen Hussain claimed that this boycott had absolutely nothing to do with grooming gangs, which is in contrary to what he said in 2015 on the BBC. And we can now reveal footage of the moment when Hussain called for that boycott, where he went further and called for individuals to be boycotted.
If anybody from the Muslim community does not bring in this policy, we boycott them too. Any Muslim organisation, let's make it better, any Muslim individual or institution in Rotherham that do not adhere to this policy of disengagement will also be boycotted by the Muslim community. We call upon that.
As you can see there, a fiery speech being delivered to a room almost entirely of men who voted to bring in that policy of disengagement, of boycotting the police, and also there boycotting communities, organisations, and also, as you've just heard, Muslim individuals who did not agree with this policy. Now, 2 days later, that boycott was called off after cooler heads prevailed. Hussain said that the boycott was due to the incompetent engagement policy used by South Yorkshire Police. His representatives have claimed to us that he had later clarified that the boycott was only targeting organisations and not individuals, as he had earlier said. But I cannot find evidence for that claim. It's not known who nominated Hussain for this MBE, but many have been calling that into question now after this footage. Robert Jenrick said last night that Hussain had been caught red-handed calling for a Muslim boycott of the police in Rotherham. Well, in a statement from Mr Hussain, he said that the peaceful boycott in 2015 related to a specific issue between the police and the Muslim community in the wake of a brutal murder. My record in countering extremism and terrorism from the age of 14, which has included speaking out unequivocally against grooming gangs, including those who are men of Pakistani origin, leading the first demonstration against such criminals and working to break barriers between intrafaith and interfaith communities, speaks for itself. I have a distinguished track record in building bridges for communities, and I was delighted and honoured to be offered an MBE in the forthcoming King's Birthday Honours in recognition of this work. I look forward to continuing to work on community cohesion and interfaith understanding going forward. That is a statement there from Muhbeen Hussain after we reveal that footage of him in 2015 calling for individual Muslims to be boycotted over his policy.
Great stuff. And just to clarify, an MBE for services to integration and cohesion for that chap. Thank you, Charlie Peters. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah.